We've shown you all the big highlights from here, so let me leave this behind now and talk about classic cars. A very special event was held in New Delhi just a few days ago. It happens once every 2 years. That's the Cartier Concours, and Bala was there. Here's the report.
A vintage show that every Indian royal patron and noted private collector vies to be part of. The fourth edition of the Cartier Concours d'Elegance attracts the creme de la creme of classic cars and bikes, from the large stables of the Maharajas to the smaller vintage garages across India. What makes it more exclusive is that this is amongst the world's 4 best Concours d'Elegance events. The vintage car exhibition and competition is held every 2 years in India and has been organized since 2008.
110 rarest of rare classic automobiles on display here at the Jaipur Polo Grounds, and interestingly this year, of the 110, 30 of them are actually vintage motorcycles, making the show a lot more interesting. And interestingly, most of them are not here just for show, but also compete in 9 different categories. So let's go back in time and see some of those interesting participants this year at the show.
Preparing a car for entry to a concours is not taken lightly. We're in Jodhpur, at the home of the royal family here, known for incredible and impressive fleets of classic cars. Maharaja Gaj Singh of Jodhpur is regarded as one of India's leading antique car collectors, and 2 of his rare beauties have been selected to be showcased at the Cartier Concours this year. Each vehicle goes through a detailed inspection by automobile historian and restorer John Faisal before it can be sent for the event. But the process of selecting the most timeless pieces of automobile history can be quite a daunting task, and event curator and auto historian Manvendra Singh of Barwani proudly says that it is these efforts that have brought the event global recognition.
I mean, if we have Sandra Button, the CEO of Pebble Beach, judging twice in a row, that means it's been some achievement that we've reached somewhere. And sure enough, the quality of restoration from the first Cartier to this, by standards of all judges and all collectors, has risen so far up.
2 new categories were included for the competition this year: the cute Italian Piccolo Fiats and coach builders to the Maharajas. The other categories were pre-war, post-war, Indian heritage, preservation and roadster classes. And the vintage motorcycles got to compete in 3 signature classes: veteran vintage, pre-war and post-war. And speaking of motorcycles, what caught our eye was this well-preserved Harley-Davidson from the early 1900s, and its owner Rakesh Jain turned out to be as interesting as the bike. Most of the classic bikes at the show were from his garage, which boasts nearly 450 vintage motorcycles. Yes, you heard it right, 450. And the best part was, he had never showcased any of them at any exhibition until now.
See, basically I had cars first. It became impossible to park the cars and look after them, parking problems, and I shifted over to motorcycles. I found them more interesting, more intricate, more work to be done on it, and they had history behind it. A lot of them were received as gifts from people.
Judging these classic beauties was quite a task, but this year there were some big names in the 2015 Cartier Concours jury. Some of them were Chief Judge His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent, Chairman of the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance Sandra Button, President of the FIA Jean Todt, Formula One driver Riccardo Patrisi, and award-winning Formula One designer Gordon Murray.
There's not so many early cars this year. However, there's a great group of coach-built cars, all the Van den Pla cars, stunning group, and a lot of fun with Topolinos and the cars of Indian heritage, and of course all those American Finns. So I think each year it has its own personality. It's a great show.
I love coming to India. It's a beautiful country, great people, and there is a historically passion for cars. So when you see all those old cars which have been restored in India with Indian owners, it's fascinating.
Interestingly, this year, smaller private collectors like S.S. Sarkari, who is an engineer by profession, got to flaunt his two beauties, the 1948 Triumph Roadster 2000 and 1973 MG Tickford Drophead Coupe. He says although it is an expensive affair, he's driven by the passion to restore his vintage cars.
I picked it up maybe 7-8 years back. It was a total derelict. So I just liked the look of the car. Oh, I picked it up. I picked it up from Delhi only, from one of the workshops. And last 3 years I have been, three and a half years I have been working on it. And slowly I have come to this thing, but still it needs a bit of a job to be done. And I feel getting spare parts is the biggest headache, you know.
Now, almost every car here at the show has a fairly interesting story to tell, including the one behind me. This was used by the Maharaja of Mayurbhanj for hunting. You can see the big Stephen Grebel spotlights across the car, and this was a favorite hunting accessory, especially for these kind of cars. And I'm pretty sure that the Maharaja used this pretty well on his hunting trips.
But car collectors are worried by the recent order by the National Green Tribunal not allowing the plying of vintage cars on Delhi roads.
I feel the government of India should recognize its heritage and not let it lose it like this. You cannot put these cars in the same category as the regular cars or the cars which are like 15 years old or 20 years old. They have to be recognized world around. They get a special certification. I'm not saying that reduce the taxes on these cars. You need to give them special status and allow the heritage of this country to be shown. If you look at the heritage of India, I mean, where else except for maybe America and Europe, which is the third nation that comes with automobile heritage? It's India. It's distinct heritage, and if you don't realize it and value it, it's all going to perish, which is going to be sad, which happened many years back before Indira Gandhi put a stop to the export of cars.
The best car of the show title went to the 1933 Minerva AL 40 HP, owned by renowned collector Diljit Titus. And the best motorcycle of the show was the 1936 Royal Enfield 500cc, owned by Parvinder Singh. Other awards went to the 1952 CZ Jawa 250cc in the adventure category, and the 1920 Moon Model 642 owned by Srivardhan Kanoria was awarded the Special Resurrection Cup for managing to get the classic car back on its wheels from scratch.